Okay, so we are on lesson 5, and that means that it is Monday. Hopefully you guys got through your first week okay. I want to first talk about what you're supposed to be doing today. So today you will watch the video Physics of Flight, and it has some good ways of explaining a couple of the concepts that I'm going to explain right now. And then you're going to want to take notes on this PowerPoint. It does have a lot of slides, but a lot of them are just showing you different aircrafts with the same components. This is probably one of the most important and foundational topics you guys will cover here in this first quarter, not semester anymore, but the first quarter. You really need to understand the dynamics of flight. So I'm going to allow you guys to go through the PowerPoint, but I'm going to point out a couple things that I want to talk about. So I'm going to highlight a couple of the slides, and then I'll let you guys do your thing with notes. So this right here is the plane taken apart. You have your fuselage with your cockpit. That's where your cockpit is. This is where you would have passengers if it was a passenger plane. You have your wings, the power plant. That's what we're going to refer to as the engine, the power plant. And you have landing gear and the empennage. So the empennage is the back of the plane, and we're going to get more into that in just a second, as well as more functionality of the wings. So the first thing is part of what you're going to be doing on your quiz is labeling the empennage with the different components. And so you need to know the different components of the back of a plane. So here we have the empennage, the back part of the plane. I'm going to ignore the wing for just a second. But the back part of the plane consists of the vertical stabilizer. It's the vertical piece that does not move, stabilizer, and you have a horizontal stabilizer. Attached to those, you have both a rudder on the vertical stabilizer. This is going to control like the yaw of a plane. If a plane is, flying like this and all of a sudden it starts to kind of get off like this, the rudder is going to help to bring it back to this location. That's called yaw. So we'll get into that in a second. This right here on the the horizontal stabilizer, you have what are called the elevators. That's going to, if you put the elevator up, the wind is going to hit that, or the airflow will hit that and send the back of the plane down, which means the nose goes up. When we put this down, the wind flow hits here, sending this up and puts the nose down. So that's how we're gonna take off and land. So that's gonna be that controlling surface. So that's the whole back component. You have your elevator, your horizontal and vertical stabilizer, and your rudder. That's the empennage. The wing component, so you have your wing that is fixed, but you have different pieces that move on the wing. You have your flaps, and I'll talk about what the flaps do. You guys may, when you're landing a plane, hear something going bzzz and coming out. That right there is the flaps. That's going to help control the landing, and we'll talk more about those. And the ailerons are on the outside of the wing. So that's, you notice the flaps are on the inside, the ailerons are on the outside. That's going to control how we turn our plane. Those are the important pieces of a plane that you guys will be looking at. Again, they take you through different planes to show you different formats of that, because obviously we have a lot of different kinds of planes and designs. The last thing that I will point out, some planes have trim tabs. That's doing the same type of thing where you can actually move your whole rudder, but maybe it has a trim tab on it for basically, if you want to do tricks and such, the trimming out a plane helps with those. Okay, so you guys will be asked to label planes, and they show multiple diagrams of the different places or the different parts of planes that I just went over. Here's a little bit. So we talked about the empennage, we talked about the wing and the ailerons and flaps, but now the power plant here is, there's actually 4 of them on this plane. So the power plant can be located in different places. Fuselage is where you would store the people, and then the cockpit here. Okay, this is a lot of the same thing. So that's where I'm going to skip down actually now. You will be visiting the topic of the center of gravity. If you've ever been on a flight where it's not very crowded, they'll tell passengers to move to the back because they need to make sure that they keep the center of gravity in the right place. If they don't, then you have kind of an unstable plane situation. So they won't do that on an aircraft. So that's to create stability. So you guys will talk a little bit more about that, or look a little bit more about how the center of gravity plays a role in that. This is the last thing that I really want to cover, and it is the three different axes of flight. So this is where the rudder, the flaps, the ailerons, all of that comes into play. It's all about keeping that stability of your airplane. So the first thing we'll look at is the longitudinal axis, and what that will do is it will take our plane either left or right. So if we want to go left or right, that's the axis that I'm going to be talking about. The lateral axis, so, imagine I'm flying. This is why I'm doing the video, because I don't think you can fully see it in a PowerPoint. So I'm going to be doing left and right, and we're going to talk about how we move the ailerons to make that happen. The lateral axis is going to take us up and down, so taking off and landing. So that's the lateral axis. That's the up and down of the plane. And then we have the vertical axis. This is the yaw, what I'm talking about with a yaw, and we'll talk about that later. But planes don't just, go like this and then we can turn and we can turn. You also have another component where you have this yaw that happens. Even if you're not turning your wings at all, you can kind of yaw the plane. So a lot of it is just keeping it stable in the right direction. So those are the three different axes that we're going to be talking about. They intersect in the center of gravity, obviously. Okay, so let me talk about roll. So we're going to talk about roll first. So if we want to roll the plane, okay, we want to take it left or we want to take it right, then what we're going to actually be using in order to maneuver that are the ailerons. The ailerons, those are all located on the outside of the wing. They move in opposite directions. We're going to learn about the flaps later, and the flaps always move in the same, well, they always come down. They're always in one direction together. So the ailerons on the outside, though, they're going to go in opposite directions every single time. Okay, there are turning. So to turn left, if we want to turn left, you really have to imagine the airflow here. To turn left, the right wing is going to have to go up, right? And so then that will take our plane to the left. In order to make that happen, you put the right aileron down. That's going to force air up when you do that, and it's going to move that right wing up. At the same time, so if these are my ailerons, I'm going to lower that right aileron down, and I'm going to raise my left one. That's going to force air on the top of the wing and send this one down. So you have that perfect maneuverability. So when you think of it that way, the left one, if I want to go left, it always goes up. Okay. If I want to move right, and then the other one, the right one would go down. If I want to move right, then that one would come up and the left one would go down, and it would push the plane to the right. So imagining that, that's very important. The ailerons are a very important role in this. This is just another diagram to show that exact thing, but I think it's easier to see it in person. Okay, so now talking about the pitch, going up and down. So this is going to be controlled by the elevator on the back of the plane. So on the very back of the plane, you have your elevator, and that's on the empennage at the very end. So you have your horizontal stabilizer, and it's attached to your elevators. Again, I talked about this before, but if I want to descend, let's say I'm flying and I want to go down. If I put the elevator down, then it's going to force air up on here because it's pushing the air now like this. It's going to force the back of my plane up. So if these come down, it's going to force the back of my plane up, which is what I want, because that's going to put my nose. If the back of the plane goes up, the nose goes down. So if I want to go down, I put them down. Okay. If I want to go up, when you are taking off in a plane, you put them up because it pushes the air down. It pushes that back of the plane down, and your nose is going to go up. So that's how the elevators work. And then the last thing we're going to talk about before I jump off here is the rudder. So to control the yaw of the plane, you're going like this, and all of a sudden you start kind of getting off course and you're veering like this. You're going to control the yaw of it. So this diagram is very confusing, but let's say you start getting off path, you're going kind of right. Now your plane is going right and you need to move it left. Well, you actually pull your rudder, and that's attached to the vertical stabilizer in the back. You would flip it to the left. If you want to turn left, or yaw left is what we call it, then you would do this and turn it left, because it would push the back of your plane on that side and it would cause this straightening out. Okay, so if I was going like this and I was going too far left and I needed to yaw right, that's the term, yaw right, then I would actually throw this out to the right as well to push the back of the plane so that the front of the plane straightens out. Okay, so that's what these diagrams really were alluding to. I don't think that they do a great deal or a great job of explaining that, so I wanted to get on and talk about those. They show you a lot of other pictures of different kinds of planes and different kinds of vertical stabilizers, but in a nutshell, that's the real heart of the lesson, is understanding those three things. The ailerons control the left and the right. The rudder controls the yaw, and the elevators are going to control your up and down. Your pitch is what we call that, the pitch. Okay. That's all I'm going to share with you guys for this lesson. That was the important part. Go ahead and take notes on this and then upload those notes to the document, and have a wonderful day.